Hello everyone, I'm here to do a review on Halloween 2, um, starring Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasence. The movie starts out with right where the first one ended, which I really enjoyed because it feels like it's part of the first one. I think that's how all sequels should be. They should never, no sequel should completely dispel the movie before it, because if people are clearly watching, if you make a sequel and people are going to see it, they're expecting to see the continuation of that story, not completely saying, "Oh, well, that didn't happen. This is how I'm going with the story now." No. The movie starts off after Jamie Lee had defeated Michael in the first movie. Michael's laying on the bed. She's sitting in the doorway. She gets up. She walks out in the hallway. She doesn't see Michael sit up. Michael sits up. Michael goes out there, starts choking her. Dr. Loomis comes in, shoots him 6 times. He falls off the balcony. And when Dr. Loomis goes down to investigate, Michael Myers is gone. Right after that begins the title sequence, which is probably my favorite title sequence in the Halloween franchise. I really like how it has a pumpkin, and the pumpkin opens up and there's a skull in the middle. I thought that was really good. And I love the musical score, clearly, for it. The musical score for the title sequence was perfect. So I think every Halloween in the franchise should have had a similar opening to that. Maybe not the exact same thing, but a similar opening. Right after the title sequence opens up, pretty much the story follows 3 characters: Laurie Strode, Dr. Loomis, and Michael Myers. Laurie Strode gets taken to the hospital. Dr. Loomis goes on the hunt for Michael Myers, and Michael Myers goes around stealing knives from old ladies. I'll start with Michael first. Right after Michael goes into this old lady's house, so she's distracted watching her husband sleep to watching George Romero's Night of the Living Dead. Michael comes in behind her, steals her knife, but lets her live. And then right after that, Michael ends up going next door to the old lady's next door neighbor and offing her. I don't know why exactly he killed her. I don't really understand. But regardless, he killed her. Dr. Loomis then is going around freaking out about how he shot Michael 6 times. Yada yada yada, and Laurie Strode is in the hospital with a drunken doctor and nursing staff of, I believe, 5 or 6, including the one security guard. So halfway through the movie, when Donald Pleasence believes he saw Michael Myers, he freaked out, and the guy believed to be Michael Myers walked right in front of a car. The car hit him and literally smashed him up against a van. That was actually one of my favorite scenes, because it really did not look that fake. The car grabs the kid believed to be Michael Myers and shoves him into the back of a van. That's one of my favorite scenes. And then when the van blows up, it looked really good, especially by the early 80s standards, where a lot of movies, they would never have invested in that kind of pyrotechnics for something as silly as a horror movie. Well, as they believe is silly as a horror movie. I know I'm skipping around the movie a lot. Most people have already seen Halloween 2, so I'm only going to get the key points. Later, Dr. Loomis finds out that it's probably a kid named Ben Tramer, who is mentioned in the first movie, actually, to Laurie Strode. He was mentioned. Annie was trying to hook them up. Go figure. So anyways, you know, after they find out, it may not be Michael Myers. There's probably not Michael Myers. The police force goes back out and tries to find him out in the streets or whatever. And then in the meantime, Michael's going around. Michael's makes it to the hospital where Laurie Strode is, kills off the security guard, then kills off the entire staff one by one. The kills are a little bit more brutal than the first movie. I don't want to say they're too much more brutal. I mean, no one really gets decapitated. I mean, one guy gets hit in the head with a hammer. One guy gets strangled. A girl gets her face dunked in scalding hot water. One nurse really just gets stabbed in the back and picked up. And then one thing I thought was weird was the nurse who gets who bleeds to death. Like, it doesn't show her die, but she's sitting on a bed with an IV in her arm, and there's blood all over the floor. I thought that was a little weird. And then so pretty much Michael kills off the whole nursing staff one by one until finally Laurie Strode sees him, and she's running as well as she can run. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis is a talented actress. I like, the way she ran away from him, having a bone cracked in her, I believe it was her left foot. Jamie Lee Curtis did a great job of running and limping at the same time. It didn't look too unbelievable. Pretty much, she runs into the basement. Michael chases her into the basement. She gets into an elevator, goes up. She gets out of the hospital, gets into a car. This is where the EMT comes out, meets her in the car, and then he randomly passes out because earlier in the movie he had slipped on some blood and banged his head on the ground pretty freaking bad. And then, as he passes out, his head hits the horn, makes this loud honking sound, and as you can imagine, drew attention to her. She gets out of the car, right as she sees Dr. Loomis, and Marion Chambers is back. She was at the beginning of the first movie. And a state trooper. All three of them pull up. And then I guess I skipped this part. This was the movie where, they put it out in the open. Michael is Laurie's brother, and that was a pretty big twist for the series. I mean, most people who have seen the movies for the first time now know that they're brother or sister. We have Rob Zombie to thank for that. His Halloween wasn't very, what's the word I'm looking for? Wasn't very secretive about it. They just put it right out in the open. So, anyways, Dr. Loomis, Marion Chambers, and the security guard all show up. They were trying to take Dr. Loomis back. They didn't want him anywhere around Haddonfield, but Dr. Loomis, being the heroic that he is, he doesn't want to leave this monster alone in Haddonfield. So, anyways, they show up to the hospital. They don't see Laurie as she crawls out of the car. Laurie tried screaming for help. They didn't hear her. They go into the hospital. lock the door, and right as she's crawling towards the hospital, Michael pops up behind her, a pretty good distance behind her. And then as he's walking towards her, she's trying to get to the hospital door as quick as possible, and she gets to the door, she's beating on it, and Michael's getting closer, and then finally Dr. Loomis and the patrol officer hear her. They go to the door, let her in, and then they close the door, lock the door, then Michael just walks through the door like it's nothing. Dr. Loomis shoots Michael again. Michael falls down. And the patrol officer tries to investigate Michael's body. At this time, Dr. Loomis tells Marion Chambers to go out to the car and get some help. She goes out to the car, and right after she went out to the car, then Michael sits up and slits the officer's throat. And then he chases Laurie and Dr. Loomis, and then they get into this room with a bunch of ether and oxygen tanks and everything, and Loomis hands Laurie a gun. She didn't want it at first, but once Michael got close enough to her, she had no problem picking it up and shooting him in the eyes. And then they end up trying to play a game with Michael where they turned on the ether machines, and they were trying to get Michael to go back and forth. Michael couldn't see because he got shot in the eyes, and pretty much to make a long story short, Dr. Loomis tells Laurie to get out of the room, and then Dr. Loomis lights a match and blows Michael up. Michael gets blown up, and then after he's blown up, Laurie's sitting by the fire, a little bit of ways from the fire, and then Michael starts to walk out, and then right as he gets far enough, he just falls over. That is inevitably how Michael is beaten in this movie. Once again, he's clearly not human. I'm going to emphasize that. He got shot in the eyes and blown up, and he is still going. And then Laurie gets taken up by the ambulance and everything is great at this point. And that's pretty much the end of the movie. I know I skipped a lot of things, but I mean, it's Halloween 2. I give this 2 thumbs up. I loved this movie. It felt like it went with the first one really well. If you have a Blu-ray player, I highly recommend getting it on Blu-ray because it's almost a completely different experience with Blu-ray. Like when one part that I really noticed about the movie, this is gonna sound silly, but the part in the movie where the kid goes to the hospital because he has something stuck in his mouth. Well, when I watched the movie on VHS, I believed it was a piece of glass stuck in his mouth. I didn't know because it was very blurry and it just had a reflection on it, so all I could see was the glass. And then now that I watched it on Blu-ray, I found out that it was literally a razor blade stuck in his mouth. And the way it was stuck in his mouth looked a lot more disgusting on the Blu-ray version because it actually looked real. So, yeah, that's my review. I'll be coming at you soon with the review for Halloween 3. And I want to give a shout out to the Myers fan. The Myers fan has helped me a lot with my reviews, and he's been a big inspiration, and he's been a big help with me overseas. That's my review. Look in a couple of days for the review of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Alright, thank you very much. Have a good day.